I want them to see like a diversity of business. I was telling them last night, it's like, you can be an independent hair and makeup artist, or you can have a small agency, or you can have a little store, right? Like all of these things are small business. That's the other thing I was focusing on. I have often taught this class, and my colleague also has taught this class, as we're all startups building a technology.
Mm-hmm.
And I've shifted the focus. We're going to talk about that stuff, and it's possible a group will choose to do something like that. But I've been talking a lot more about small business, and what that means and why that's important. And I hope that I'm opening up sort of the vision for them to see things that they can do more realistically, right? Like the people who are going to actually build a technology that scales and sells. It's not right. Exactly. Like, I mean, it's so awesome to see success there, but it's not really the majority. It's the story we hear. It's not the majority of what people are doing.
Right.
That's so important to hear, I think, for people, because they're like, oh, I'm not an entrepreneur because I'm not a high growth, like I didn't build an app, I didn't, but you're like, actually, it's so much more diverse. So I think that's so awesome that you're taking that entrepreneurship class in that direction.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I like it. I feel really good about it. And what was the other thing? Like you were talking about, like it's people don't think of themselves as entrepreneurs or maybe even small business owners, right? They just do this thing on the side, but adding a level of professionalism and legitimacy, and just really sometimes all you need is the language for it, for you to realize like, oh, I am this, right? So one example that I've been thinking a lot about is women in technology. So who are the women in tech, right? What is the story about the woman in tech? And so that independent hair and makeup artist, well, she might not think of herself as a woman in tech, but she relies on technology to run her business, right? She loves to go out there and do hair and makeup, but if we can upskill her technology literacy, what does that mean, right, for women in tech? How does that change where we can go and what we can do with our small businesses? So that's been what's been keeping me up at night.
Good idea.
But in my class, I mean, when you teach in creative and communication spaces, there's a fair amount of women in your classes, and it doesn't really look like the majority of technology classes, right? Okay. Or business classes even. And so that's the other thing that I love about being at the J School is the diversity of our students and what they're interested in and how creative they are. Like I was telling them last night, like, so the lean canvas model is built in such a way that like the top of it is your problem solution, why you versus somebody else, who are you trying to reach, like all of that kind of stuff. The bottom of it is cost and revenue. And I told them, and this is what I see, we're all going to be really good at the top part in some way, right? We're going to be able to form teams that are going to be really good at the top part in some way because we're creative. This is the kind of stuff we like to think about. We like to engage people, but the bottom part is what matters, because the top part is just an idea and the bottom part is what makes it a business.
Yeah.
Right. And I've fallen short in class in focusing on cost and revenue. Right. And so now I told them, don't come to me with an idea, come to me with a business, right? Show me how you're going to pay for it and show me how you're going to make money from it. And I hope that stressing that this semester will also give them different skills, right? And make sort of those awesome ideas that we're always having in these spaces look like possible business opportunities, right? So I challenged them with the idea that they had, that we voted, that the top idea that they thought was most realistic was, they called it UNT Bumble Friends. right? So it's just for friendship matchmaking on campus, to find students who maybe live in a similar area or in a similar major or have similar interests, solely to like make new friends and connections on campus. So I was like, okay, well, what can you do to make money tomorrow that will help you validate your idea? You know, and so it was fun. It was interesting because so many of the ideas that came up at first were ideas that were going to cost us money to do. So they might expand our audience, right? But they weren't going to make us any money in the same, you know, right along the way. So it was so fun to challenge them with that and see like them go back and forth. Like they were stumped.
Yeah, this is more of a gender thing than, because, you know, I've always thought the same way. I have these ideas, but I don't really look at how I can make money at it. And I was just thinking, you know, Namdaba that came one other time, is like, you know, how do you make the income? And men seem to go, how do you make the money first? You know, is it going to make money? Is it going to make money? And that's never been my driving force.
Right.
It's something that I really feel is going to be helpful or fun, or, you know, enjoy, or just know that this will work. You know, people will be interested in it, but money is the last thing I usually think of.
And I got to tell you, I have not pulled any research or looked at any data or anything like that. But based on the makeup of my class last night, I would say no, right? Because I happen to be in a space where there's a good mix of men and women, and I was getting ideas from both, and then both were still coming up with ideas that were going to cost us money to do. I mean, they were like, what about this advertising or doing social media? And I'm like, well, who's going to create it? How much is that going to cost? Right? Like all of those kinds of things. And I was like, you guys, this is still costing us money. Like, how are we going to make money? We have a business to continue to run. $100,000 is not going to last us very long. Right. And so finally they were like, well, what could you do? And so I told them something like, I thought of Lilia from Aloe Media. She just did an event that was a fundraising event, right, for her birthday. And she did it at a local business, and she invited vendors, and she had raffles and had donations and all of that kind of stuff. And it was for a cause. But you know, like once everything was paid, there was money to donate to the cause, right? So I was like showing them as an example, if you can do something like this, you can make partnerships, you can tell a business, will you host this at, you know, for free or at cost or at a low cost? It's going to bring people to your business, right? So that's a benefit, you know, and then it's going to help our student small business, right, get off the ground. So there's a story that we can tell about working together. Like, so I was talking to them about that, and I'm like, yeah, that's going to cost us some money, because they were like, well, it's going to cost money, the food costs money. And I said, but we can charge a premium like Lilia did for VIP swag bags, like all different kinds of things. You can do a 50-50 raffle. So, and I was like, and so then when you walk away, you have made some money, you know? And you have increased your visibility, and you have, you know, made partnerships and new connections with local business and all of that kind of stuff. So I hope that, like, as we develop down the road, generating ideas like that will come easier to them, because I'm going to be asking them all semester, like, so today, what are you into and how can you make money with it? You know, like,
right. I mean, that's the role. It was like trying to start my mornings with, okay, what can I do to generate revenue before I get started with all these other little fun things like editing the YouTube videos or blah, blah, blah,
right?
You know, but because that's like the last thing. It's like, oh, I gotta call up people that have called me back, you know, and gotta follow up on those people that may sign up for the course. But I was just thinking, you know, I think the verbiage has changed. In the past, I just always called myself self-employed. As being an artist, or, you know, doing, you know, projects or something for somebody. So never really, I mean, I considered myself in business, but it was just being self-employed. They didn't use the word entrepreneur as much years ago. And now that's become like, well, heck, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, but they just didn't use that term. And so that's a very different way, although I always consider myself to be a professional. And Brittany, you're an artist, right? Brittany?
I am.
Okay.
I'm
Well, I think, wasn't that what you were trying to do? is
portrait artist.
come up with a way of turning that into more of a full-time business for yourself, or am I wrong?
Yeah, I'm just realistically like, no, you're right. I'm just realistically like, oh gosh, it's so I'll have to show y'all before we sign off. I'm by the ocean right now. On the California coast. So like literally we're camping by the ocean.
How
We
wonderful.
took a since the last time I talked to y'all, we took a van trip across the country. So we're just in San Francisco, and now we're just like north of San Francisco. And our end game is Olympia, Washington. And after that, I don't know. But so I've been like,
I love that you are sitting by the ocean, but you came to Coffee and Convos.
Yeah.
I did, and I had to thank Instagram because I haven't had internet like on the trip very well because I have Mint Mobile, and sorry Ryan Reynolds, but it's not like everywhere. And so I'm like, oh, I can't come to it, and I just kind of wrote it off like I won't have internet. And then we're at a place with Wi-Fi, and I saw Instagram this morning, and it's like there's still time to sign up. I'm like, oh my gosh,
yay! I'm so glad.
That's great. That's great.
But I've been an entrepreneur on the road with like almost no Wi-Fi and moving and in a van. And so it's been a different experience completely. Like I've had to like readjust, like, and then also like connecting to like a pod of people or what have you. Like I really did want to apply to do the entrepreneur thing with Stoke. What is it called? I forget the name of it.
Accelerate her.
Accelerate her. But then I won't be in Denton. And then, so like, how do you get opportunities and like connect with people while you're like traveling and everything? But so that's been a challenge. I have like so many different ideas, and that's always my problem is like, I have like, they're all kind of tangential, but there's so many. And then I'm like, just my personality type. I'm like an idea person, like Julie's talking about her class. Like I can think of like 5,000 ideas, but then like the brass tacks of like, I need like a Julie in my head saying, okay, but now do this, but now do that, but now do this. Cause I'm just like kind of floaty with my ideas. And I feel like I have good ideas, but it's hard to like bring them down to earth and like make money, that kind of thing. But I've basically decided that I am doing this and on the road and everything. So it's like, I need to make money. It's important.
Well, I've had more men over the years talk about the fact that, oh, well, that sounds great, but you can't make any money at it, or whatever. So that's one of their top check things is it going to generate income? Is it going to make money? Or they just don't do it. They don't waste their time doing it.
They're not always right.
Yeah.
FYI.
True.
Men are quick to shoot down an idea. I'm speaking from experience. I've had men that have shot down ideas and then I've done them anyway. Right.
Oh, true. I've done the same thing. But they're kind of conditioned or socialized. And I believe maybe it's different for your younger generations, but with the making the money, it comes first. For men, it's that, generating money, and maybe younger women now are coming up with that. I was not raised with that, but
we certainly haven't had the kind of mentorship that would prepare us to think that way. Right. And historically, and I don't know, it's better. I don't know it's that much better. I still get college students that will talk to me and say that like they never thought this was an option for them. I mean, that's where I began. I knew of entrepreneurship, and I didn't feel excluded from it. I just didn't think it was a part of what was possible for me.
Okay.
Not actively, right? Not actively, but so I don't know. I mean, and maybe it's coming from creative space, right? Because we are just now getting to what it means to be an artist and have a business or a creative person and make money and that kind of stuff. So maybe that's what it was. I don't really know. But all that to say, I still have those conversations with students.
Well, I guess I think part of it is just either an approach to the world or whatever too, because I think I've always, since the age of 25, I've been self-employed. And I mean, I'm late 60s now, so I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
And yet when I would tell people what I was doing, they're going, how do you do that? How do you know how to get clients or find, do this? I'm thinking, well, it's just, you just get out there and hustle, you just have to get out there. But part of my training came from being married to an illustrator.
Mhm.
And an illustrator is an artist who gets paid in advance to do a job. And so even though it's commercial art, they still have a different approach to doing their art because they're not doing everything on speculation,
Right.
which is what most fine artists do. So when I got my MFA at Texas Women's, I already had a background of going out and representing him and other graphic artists to make money. So I approached it very differently, that, I would do this for visibility, but it was to sell the work. And so we get commissions and things like that. So I had to learn how to do contracts and, approach it as a more of a professional. But it was, I just had this kind of like what got developed in my, life. So, and it was interesting because being able to sell somebody else's art, I could sell it for a whole lot more money than they would charge themselves. And I got to learn that it was just, you have to have it in the right type of work in front of the right type of person. And it's not personal. It's all kind of a numbers game. It's just have to keep doing it. It's not personal. And so you just find the ones that are attracted to what you do and don't worry about the rest of them.
Yep. Yes.
So that was really good training for me as far as the sales part. So I never took it personally if somebody didn't, buy stuff from a show, but usually the shows were what got me commissions.
Right.
And so being able to follow up with that. But it's about not being shy. I mean, you can't wait for somebody to discover you. You have to get out, you have to be visible, and you have to be excited about what you're doing.
And that's another point. Some of us, like in creative communities, there's also that mix because some of us are very introverted and some of us are more extroverted. Some introverts are still willing to go, right? Because that's a spectrum as well. But like for me, I don't love selling at all. I would rather not do it. And
you're good at it, Julie.
When I was younger, I was more of an extrovert, right? And now I would rather talk to people less. I don't know. I get more overstimulated from it. Like I get more, it drains me more than it used to. That's what it really is. But then finding ways to sell. I think that's something that my mentors have helped me with most recently in the past, like 5 years, maybe 5 to 10 years. What you're talking about, Donna, is figuring out a way to pitch that feels authentic to me, and so that's another thing, because there's also a story about the kind of personality who sells and sells well.
Well, I used to teach a class called the Art of Self-Promotion for artists to learn how to market themselves and get their things out there. And this was at the days of press releases and, postcards, when you would mail out postcards and collect addresses and those things. But that's something that has just transitioned into collecting email addresses instead of collecting physical addresses.
Yep.
But I was so excited when like MailChimp and these, email marketing letters came out, because, oh my gosh, this is so much more affordable and doable than planning 2 weeks in advance to get your postcards, printed, mailed in the mail so that it gets to them in time. So it's much more immediate than it used to be. But most of the artists that came to my work, the ones that really made a success at it, were usually the men. And the women, I hate to say it, but if they were married, they depended on their husbands to support them. And their art was something more for their heart, for their soul, for their pleasure. And I thought, well, it can be that too, but you can also be a professional and learn, and you really learn to value your work more if somebody else values it as well and pays for it. So it was a different mindset to be able to offer those kind of business classes to artists, and how few of the artists really did anything with it. But so, but it was something that I had the experience in doing. And so trying to do it yourself. So again, when you're doing it for yourself, it's much harder, but I used to tell them it's about celebrating, not selling.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
Because the idea is if you're excited about what you're doing, that enthusiasm comes across to other people. So you can say, oh, I have just finished I am so excited about this new portrait. Or, I've got the most wonderful client I'm working with right now, just sharing what it is that makes it fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've got a woman in India that I'm working with right now. And she keeps telling me, oh, you are the best coach. You are the best coach. You are the best coach. Because we could not understand anything she was saying at the beginning of this course. And now she's getting into Toastmasters. She's doing interviews. She feels
That's fabulous.
so empowered because she's able to get her ideas across. And before she said, I've got these ideas, but nobody understands anything I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me feel like I'm actually providing a service more now than I did when I was an artist. I tell you, it's, it gets to be hard when you do the work and it goes to live in somebody else's home and you don't really get a chance to hear the feedback about it. Mm-hmm. So you have to be pretty self-motivated to stay with it.
Mm-hmm.
So hang in there.
It's all really good advice.
You can do this, Brittany.
Well, my thing is like, I do have my own art and I want that to be a thing, but I also want to pivot and do just, I don't know, like maybe like art classes, but distanced and things like that, like outdoors, since that's such a need right now, like birthday parties kind of a thing. So just kind of a two street thing where I'm doing my own art, but I'm also making money
doing art
another way, doing art. Yeah. It's that kind of thing. And I'm pretty passionate about, I was an educator for 10 years. So I'm pretty passionate about, there's just not enough imagination in schools. There's just not. I mean, I was in the trenches. There's not. Like, it's all cut out for testing and it's horrible. And that's the reality of it. And I mean, some people have art classes, but they're very, very few, like 30 minutes a week or something. And like, I just think we need to pivot and turn the triangle and just be like more creative, more theater, more art in school. So that's kind of what drives me. But then again, like we're talking about, I need to make money from that. I can't just, be like a homeless, like helper person. I have to,
but it's a skill.
Find a way to monetize that, I guess.
Well, it's a skill like anything else. I mean, being in business and raising money, like the fundraiser sheet that Leah did. I mean, that's a skill, putting that together. And so it's amazing being a mom and coordinating activities and everything you do is great training ground for how to organize things, to put together an exhibit or, to call people in. It's just that it's learning these additional skills to make it visible and make people find it.
I love that you point that out, Donna, because we also don't often think about things that we do outside of work as having given us skills that could benefit us professionally. Right. And that's
it's about integrating. It is about integrating everything that you've done or things that you recognize and then putting a different spin on it, because I guess that's why I kind of look at my life is that who would have thought I would have been doing this? I didn't get trained in this, but I've always loved other cultures. To me, art was a way of communicating. It was a visual communication rather than a verbal communication. I've loved to travel. I mean, I love languages because I've tried to learn languages when I do travel. And then when I went through my divorce, I was a homestay mother because I stayed in the house and I had 2 extra bedrooms. So I had students that were learning to speak English come stay with me. And I gave them a room and fed them and we talked in conversation. But I've been teaching since like 1987. It's a long time in the academic world. And so to me, being able to, have my Japanese clients students telling me that I'm learning more from you, discussing things with you than I am in my class at Rice University. And so I never thought that I would really 20 years later be doing what I'm doing, but it has kind of been related in a way. So it's just kind of reframing things. And then teaching at ESL at University of Houston, because I had my master's, I could teach in a university. And you go in there and you just say, I love to travel. I've had homestay students, what else do I need? I speak English. That was the thing. I speak English. I should be able to teach English. I speak English. But it gave me some of the other kind of background for knowing that I was doing a great job with my students. And so when they weren't interested in me teaching pronunciation, and yet I had all these students seeking me out, I thought, I think I'll just do my own thing. And so I balanced that with another couple part-time jobs for a while, because the artwork was had lost my passion for it. So you just follow your heart.
I like Lossami's question. I just noticed that the chat was happening. Can I steal this for class?
Oh, please. Yes.
I won't steal. In fact, I'll credit you. What is your definition of an entrepreneur today? And what are the top 3 qualities or traits of the entrepreneurial spirit? And I see Donna's answer is passion, persistence, and willingness to keep learning.
That's just what top of my mind came off. So
I love it. Yeah. I just like the question comes from my time at Stoke and these coffee and convos, and definitely today, like at the beginning of the conversation, Julie, you were talking about your entrepreneurship class and how in the past there's kind of a focus on tech or tech enabled businesses or endeavors, entrepreneurial endeavors. And then like this year, you're focusing more on framing it as like, it can be a creative business and it probably will be tech enabled, but it doesn't have to be like the next, 5-star app or something. And, just everyone that I've met in Coffee and Convo, Donna, Brittany, and then, all of the other attendees, like maybe previously didn't think of yourself as an entrepreneur, or people who have joined in on these conversations, kind of rambling a little bit here, but like I would try to write blogs for Stoke and be like, what is the entrepreneurial spirit? Or like, what is it? And think to myself, like, I don't know, 3 years ago, but now I think I have a better picture of like everyone that I've met, and I can describe like, the cohort from last year's Accelerate Her Incubator program. And I'm like, that's what it takes, that's who they are. So yeah. I really want to know.
Well, what are your top 3 qualities or traits? What do you think, Lossamy?
Let's see. Like confidence in creative problem solving. I guess I don't know if that's really a trait, but maybe like a mindset, where you're like, I can creatively figure out how to solve this problem. Kind of like, I don't know exactly what the word is, but like, the ability to reach out and know that like you won't be the expert in everything. Like you're really good at a thing. And a good thing to do is to find other people who are really, really good at things and then, make it happen. And just like drive. Like it's not every day that you have to be on it 100%, but like maybe you give yourself a day off and you'll come back tomorrow and be like, all right, I just needed that time. So those 3 things, they're not 3 adjectives, but like capabilities, I guess, or like
qualities, right? Qualities. Yeah. I think being action oriented is
Lossamy. I just typed what you said and I put it in the chat for you.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Cool.
Which gets at action oriented, I think also gets at drive, right? Or persistence. Like Donna was saying, persistence is key, right? We got a grant when Retha and I founded Playable Media, and we didn't get any more money for a while. And by a while, I mean years, right? So, and then we got some money, right? And then, it just, that's kind of how it is. Like you have to be able to have tolerance for discomfort, right? Because not knowing if you're going to make money next, or being willing to take a risk, for some people is not uncomfortable, but for some people they're taking the risk and it's uncomfortable. So how long can they
Typing it in there too for you.
Thank you. How long can they tolerate that? So I've known some people who were amazing and creative and willing to take a risk, but within a year, we're like, this is not for me. They had reached that point. So pushing past that point, I think, is an important trait.
Well, and I want to just say, as far as artists go, there are hundreds of extremely talented artists that don't make it because they give it up. They stop before they really have a chance to do it. And one of the things I noticed for most of the artists that I used to represent, because I had like a portfolio of 30 different artists, is it was the ones that were persistent and just continued to be visible, showed up for the long haul, for the long term, are the ones that made it. And at one point, after 25 years of being an artist and getting some great recognition and international exposure, I had a breakdown and I couldn't physically do it anymore. So some of that I've had to shift, which was okay. But after a while, if I'm ever going to support myself for my retirement, I'm going to have to find something that makes a better living, because I don't have the stamina to do it with this. And so that's when I shifted to this other. And it has been a more financially viable career or profession, I think, now that I build business that I'm building now, than being an artist. But it makes me go back and realize I've got lots of art in the studio, in the storage unit, that I've got to put out there and sell or get rid of or something. And it's really hard to think about putting it in the dumpster. So
don't do that.
No.
So part of it is, again, looking at that and going back and reviving it, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't worthwhile. It was great, but it's like, I think our interests do change and we have to kind of shift and do something different. You're doing children right now, Brittany and Julie. I mean, my kids are grown, but it was hard doing it and having children at the same time.
Well, my kids the twins are 11, or they're turning 11. And I'm like, what year is it?
A quick time flies, right?
Claire is 13. And I started this many years ago, but not that many years ago. They were babies and I was able to grow it slowly. Right. And not even knowing that that's what I was doing for a while. Right. That's one of those things in retrospect, I could see that was what was happening. But now they're at an age where I have different abilities than when they were younger. Because I remember when they were younger and I was watching people do these things and I was like, I'm never going to be able to do that. And I didn't have sort of the reframing that we've talked about in just saying, like, I can't do that right now. Right. But now I remember that. And so then it also makes me really passionate about contributing what I can to supporting women so that they can, have that vision. Maybe it's just where you're at right now.
Are your children girls or boys?
All girls.
You're a great role model. That's exciting. Yeah.
I have to agree. Seconded. Julie's she's a great role model for me.
Oh, for me too.
I'm going to tell them, Donna Lassie said this, it's true.
Yes.
Oh, thank you for saying as much. I really appreciate.
No, it's exciting to find